Hey guys, it's Ashley, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite books to read for fall. I'm very much in the fall spirit right now, and my only wish is that it would be like in the mid-60s outside, because right now it's like 90 degrees and about to thunderstorm. So my wardrobe right now is a mix of like creams and reds and oranges and browns, and it's got like sweaters and plaid, and it's so great, and I'm so excited to keep like dressing like this for fall. Fall is my favorite season, if you guys don't know. I feel like it's a lot of people's favorite seasons, but I just love, especially in October, how everything is starting to become a lot more it's so hard to explain. I want to say orange, but that's not what I mean. Like, especially here in Florida, none of the trees are turning, nothing like that ever happens, but like you just see photos of it online and you see it in like every store that you go into, in all of the interior decorating and stuff. Like, everybody is in this very much like mustard yellow orange mood, and that's definitely how I feel right now, if that makes any sense. I feel mustard yellow, okay? Just go with it. Anyways though, today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite books that I like to read around fall time, or books that remind me of fall. For me, fall is very much a fantasy season. Summer is like the contemporary romance season, and fall and winter is like the, you know, fantasy other season. It feels right to just be sitting on the couch under a blanket with a sweater on, with like Harry Potter on TV, reading like a really thick fantasy book. That's like my dream for every day in fall. I wish that every day could happen that way. It can't, but I wish. So anyways, without further ado, here are some of my favorite books for fall. I have one full fantasy, and I'm sure you guys know what that fantasy is. And then I have like 4 like urban-ish fantasies, and then I have one that's like not any of that. So anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. Let's begin. So like I said, I have one full-on, full-fledged fantasy on this list, and based on the book that just disappeared behind me, you can probably tell what that is, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria Schwab. If you've watched my channel for long enough, you are probably sick of hearing about this book, you are sick of seeing this book cover, but I had to include it on this list because it is such a fall book in my head. It's just one of those books where I want to read it, like I just said, under a blanket with a sweater, with Harry Potter on the TV, with this book in my hand. If you haven't read this book, or don't know anything about it, or haven't heard anything about it on my channel, surprisingly, hello, here she is. So basically, we're in this world where there are these 4 Londons that coexist. There's Black London, Red London, Grey London, White London. This was not 4, but you get what I mean. We follow this guy named Kel who can travel between the Londons. We follow this girl named Lila who is this pickpocket thief, and she steals something from him that he has to get back, or else the worlds are going to collide and no longer exist. And it's a really good story with a lot of different like underlying sort of tensions and things. It's so hard to explain. Even though I just recently reread this, it's still so hard for me to explain like how great this book is. It's one of those books that has like a lot of fantasy, but also a lot of characterization, but also a lot of political drama, and so all of those things mashed together make a really great story. When I read it, I love reading about Red London, but I also love reading Lila's chapters, but I also love learning about Kel's backstory, and I also love, you know, reading about what's happening between the different Londons and their like rulers and their governing bodies, I guess you would say. There are so many things that I just love about this book individually, and then put together, it's just so much better. So if you haven't had the chance to read this one yet, please give it a try. The first 50 or so pages are a kind of slow, I will admit, but it gets so good, and the second and third books just really like they just amp up everything that this book had in it. If I haven't recommended this book enough, this is another time that I'm doing so. I also have book talk / reviews for some of these books, and I will leave everything that I can find down below. If I have a book talk for it, it'll be in the link, and if you don't see it down there, I just haven't done an individual review. So the next book that I have, I actually talked about constantly on my channel last fall, and that is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. This is another one of those books where if you were following me at that time, you are probably sick of hearing this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I can't not add it to this list. This book is such a fall book to me, it's not even funny. Again, I do have a book talk for this book up, and I will leave it linked down below, but I'll give you a little bit of a synopsis here too. We basically follow this girl named Esta who is living in present day, and she can time travel. And so there is like this world that we are in where people have powers, but the government is trying to suppress those people. And so there was something that happened with a book in like 1902 that the book was lost. It's been about a year since I read this, so I'm trying to fly off the seat of my pants here. Basically, the whole gist is that Esta travels back in time to 1902 New York and has to try to get this book, but the issue is that she has to try to get on the team for this heist to get the book, to then take the book, to then go back in time to the present day. I think when I was reading this, this reminded me a lot of Six of Crows in that way that there is this big heist that is being planned and everything leading up to that is very like suspenseful, I guess you would say. And also there is this team of people who you just grow to love, and each character is very different from one another, and they're all really, really, really great. So I'm bringing back my favorite trusty author, V.E. Schwab, for this one, and this book is City of Ghosts. Clearly, based on the title and the cover of this book, it's a bit of a spooky story. If you've never heard of this book or don't know what it's about, we follow this girl named Cassidy who had a near-death experience when she was younger, and when she came back, she can now cross over into the veil of the living and dead, and she can talk to and see basically ghosts and dead people. Now, if that seems like your average everyday like ghost story, you're wrong, because there's another layer added to this story where her parents have actually written books in the past about like ghost hunting and like, you know, the history behind different like ghost stories and things, and now they have a TV show called The Inspectors where they are being sent around the world to the world's most haunted cities to film TV shows. So she is being dragged along, and her parents have no idea that she can actually see and talk to ghosts. It's just this level of dramatic irony that is so funny and so like it just takes it to another level, this book. So this book is set in Edinburgh, Scotland. It's so good. I think when I read it, I gave it 4 stars, but I am currently in the middle of reading the second one called Tunnel of Bones, which takes place in Paris, and I'm really enjoying it so far. This is a middle grade book, so the main character is about like 12, and it's also a really short read. So I just highly recommend if you're looking for something spooky, but that will not take very long. It's a very quick read, so I definitely recommend if you're just looking for that spooky sort of vibe, because this has definitely got it for you. So in addition to City of Ghosts, I have another middle grade here that I really like reading around the fall time, and just very much screams fall to me, mostly because of just what it's about, and that is The Dreadful Tale of Prospero by Alexandra Bracken. I don't own very many spooky books, so when I make a video about spooky fall books, this one and City of Ghosts are always gonna be on it. But for good reason too, because I really enjoyed both of these books. I've talked about it before, but if you still don't know what it's about or you have forgotten, we basically follow this boy named Prosper Redding who comes from a very wealthy family. His great whoever grandfather made a deal with a demon and then broke that deal, so the demon has come back to exact its revenge by possessing Prosper, and now Prosper has to team up with some other people to try to figure out what the hell's happening and to get this demon out of him. For a middle grade book, that sounds like a kind of dark-ish story, but it is so funny. It's filled with humor, it's filled with obviously dark kind of stuff, but all around it's just a really great spooky middle grade story, and I highly recommend. I also want to recommend this story mostly because of the sort of fall vibes that it throws off. He and his family live in this town called Red Hood, which they might have founded, I'm not 100% sure because I've forgotten at this point, but they live in a town called Red Hood, and basically when the story starts, it's fall, it might honestly be Halloween if I'm remembering correctly, like right around there, but the town is described as like everything is like very fall. It's got like orange colors, and there's like a big parade, and there's a festival kind of thing happening, and it's very much like it just has that vibe to it, and that's what I remember every time I see this book and I pick up this book, and that's very much why it's on this list today. So now this next book I actually talked about in my last video, which in my last video I talked about 2 book series, so you can probably decipher which one I am about to bring up, and that is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. Like I said, I mentioned this in my last video, so this was a pretty recent read for me, but just everything that I was reading in here screamed fall, and I really wish that I had waited until just about now to read this, because I guarantee you I would have liked it so much more. If you don't know what this is about, just picture this boarding school in the mountains of Vermont and this murder mystery sort of thing that's happening. I won't go into full detail with this. I'll leave the link to that video down below where I do go into more detail, but boarding school and murder mystery, and it's like so like curl under the covers and like figure out what's happening. To me, anything with a boarding school in the mountains is going to be fall. I associate like school with like September, October, because that's when you start school, is like around the fall. So being able to read about something like that immediately makes me think of like autumn and that sort of season. Plus it's like a murder mystery, so it's got kind of like that spook factor where there's something happening like on the campus, and there's also the murder mystery that happened in the 1930s that she's trying to solve, our main character is trying to solve. Not so much spooky, but it is in a way suspenseful. It's a little bit of like a mystery thriller-ish, so definitely good to read like right around this time, especially in October. It gave me like a little bit of like the heebie-jeebies, just because like this is very like real stuff that could happen, I guess you would say. I mean, it's all set in like real life, so I mean, if someone came at me and like killed somebody and then left a note, I would like be totally freaked out. So anyway, definitely a fall book in my head. Definitely pick it up and read it. It was so good. And the very last book slash series I have to talk about in this video for books that I love reading and thinking about during the fall is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. This is a 4-book series that has been very popular on BookTube ever since it came out. The series is always so hard to explain because it has different levels to it. It's like paranormal, and it's also like part like urban fantasy, and then it's got like sort of like ghost-ish things, and then it's got like psychics, and it's so hard to explain. There are so many different layers to this book, but it is so good. I haven't read it in years. I think since I first started my channel. I think this was the first series that I actually read because of BookTube, so thank you guys for making me read this. I'm also very excited because there is a TV show that is supposed to start. I don't know when, but it's happening, and so at some point I'm gonna reread these. But every time I see these and I think about when I first read them, I very much get fall vibes from this. It's got that like I was just talking about it. There's like paranormal things and psychics and different things like that just make you think of like October and that sort of season. The books get much better as they go along, so I definitely recommend like continuing the series. It's so good. Like I said, I read these when I first started my channel, so I do have book talks up for them from like 3.5 years ago. I will leave one linked down below, as much as it is going to pain me to do so because I hate watching my videos from way back when, but I will leave it linked down below for your viewing pleasure, so knock yourselves out with that one. Anyways, I recommend it. It's hard to explain, so I'm not gonna get into the synopsis. Just like read the book and you'll figure out what happens, and you'll understand what I mean by putting it in this video because it's great. It's really great. And so those are all of the books that I am going to recommend to you guys to read for fall. Those are the books that first come to mind when I think of fall and when I think of autumn. Like I said, I'm actually reading one of those books now. I'm reading the second book to City of Ghosts, and it's very good so far. So I'm definitely in that sort of mood where I'm trying to read more like fantasy, spooky stories, and it's definitely getting me into the fall spirit. I'm very excited for October to come and to continue, I guess, because it's already here. And then that's gonna lead us into November, and that's gonna lead us to Christmas, and it's going to be great. So if you have a favorite fall book or series that you really enjoy reading or that you have recently read, definitely drop it down below so I can start a list of new books that I should be reading. And also let me know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned and if you agree with me on any of these, because I know, like I said, a lot of people consider fall and winter the fantasy sort of time and spring and summer the contemporary romance, but that's not for everybody. So definitely let me know what kind of books you enjoy reading for fall and if you agree with any of the ones that I've stated here. So I think that's gonna be it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Goodbye!